Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
What do you know about Dr. Dunch?
Based on the unbelievable true story.
I can't make sense of this.
Dr. Death.
Dunch has 2 deaths that we know of.
Starring Joshua Jackson with Christian Slater and Alec Baldwin.
I am going to fix you.
All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
In the 1990s, slumber parties were every young girl's dream. But on October 1st of 1993, Polly Class's sleepover became a nightmare. Instead of staying up all night talking about boys, Polly's night would end tragically Polly's night would tragically end with her murder. What monster could be responsible for such a violent crime against a sweet young child? This is True Crime Cast.
This is True Crime Cast. Jamie and John talking into microphones for the first time in a long time.
I think this is the first time I've seen you in a month, and I'm not examinating.
This is the longest we've gone without recording. I mean, we haven't even seen each other, right? And we live next door.
Yeah, but we've not been home at the same time for the last 3 weeks. But
until today.
Your yard looks great. Noticed that coming in today. So even the time away from home didn't stop you from keeping a well-manicured yard.
I knew when you were coming home. Let me say that.
I pulled up to my yard and it was like a jungle. So I was really hoping that you were going to mow and not tell me, and you'd be a good neighbor.
I didn't have time for that.
I know, we're so busy.
But we did have a lot of listeners that put a lot of time into joining our Patreon family. We haven't recorded in a while, so we got a pretty long list of thank yous, John, if you want to go through those.
I can't go without noticing the perfect segue there. Not rehearsed, but well done, sir.
Thanks, man.
All right. So you're going to make me read all these names. We're going to go back a few weeks, but we've been saying that if you haven't heard your name, be patient because we're on vacations, but today's the day, guys. We'll start with Timothy Michael. Timothy came in at $10 level, so Timothy gets a special shout out. Jamie, why don't you do that?
Timothy, we really appreciate your support. We really hope you enjoy what we have over on Patreon, all those special episodes. If you have ideas for other episodes over there, Timothy, let us know.
Casey came in at $10, so she gets a special shout out too, Jamie.
Casey, so happy to have you. I hope you enjoy what's over there as well. Feel free to send us some messages over there. We interact a lot with our listeners and would love to hear from you. We also want to thank Casey, Dee Dee, Janet Lee, and Johanna for coming in at our $3 level. Johanna taking advantage of that yearly membership to get a discount. Thanks to Luca for coming in at the $25 level. What's he get for that, John? A special shout out. Your turn.
Luca gets a special shout out. So thank you, Luca. And for $25 a month, you get a bonus mug coming your way. So we'll be putting that in the mail soon.
Athlon came in at our $25 level, John. So much support coming in there. Thank you so much. You get a coffee mug, a True Crime Cast coffee mug. She also took advantage of the yearly discount. You get 15% off if you pay for an entire year instead of a month.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This is awesome. Anybody else, Jamie?
I want to thank Amy. She sent us a homemade wooden sign that we get to hang up in our studio as soon as I remember to bring it over here. So we'll display that on our social media. She made that and mailed it, and it looks amazing.
I saw an email over on Patreon from you, Amy, that asked if we'd hung it up yet. No, because today is the first time we're seeing each other. So you know how soon we're getting this on the air.
Sorry for all the housekeeping, guys. We usually don't like to spend too much time doing that. But just one more item before we move into the case. We were guests last week on Talk is Jericho to talk about Nathaniel Bar Jonah. So go over there and check that out. Chris has a very interesting opinion and take on that. And you get to hear us dive into that story a little more in depth even than we did over here.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun recording that. So yeah, go over that, check that out. It's called Talk is Jericho.
Got another great case for you here today. We're really coming back from our break with a bang with a lot of good content. So we hope you enjoy it. And John, you just got back from a trip most recently, so you get us rolling.
Hey, I'll do it. It feels like it's been a while since I've got the ball rolling. Have you noticed that?
It is.
All right. Well, anyway, if you haven't heard of the 3 strikes law, it gives life terms to criminals with 3 felony convictions. Jamie, have you researched this or been familiar with the 3 strikes law?
Yeah, it varies from state to state. Some states implement it, some states stick by it, and others don't. But it's pretty controversial because felonies can take all different forms.
28 states have some form of a 3 strikes law, and California's repeat offenders laws are particularly harsh, including misdemeanor offenses. In 1994, California residents voted for this sweeping legislation with a 72% majority. Californians had one case fresh in their minds when making this decision, so that is what we're going to talk about today.
On October 1st of 1993, 12-year-old Polly Kloss was having a sleepover with her friends Kate and Jillian. Her mom and 6-year-old sister were sleeping down the hall when an intruder entered the home in Petaluma, California. So as the girls were playing board games in Polly's room, the intruder came into her bedroom carrying a knife. He tied Polly's friends up, put pillowcases over their heads, and told them to count to 1,000, and then he took Polly with him. Once the girls felt like it was safe, they took the pillowcases off and ran to Polly's mom's room and told her what had happened because she had slept through this entire attack.
Polly's mom called the police, and within 30 minutes of the kidnapping, the suspect's information was released in an all points bulletin. It was only a broadcast, however, over the Sonoma County Sheriff's Channel 1. Now, that is going to be important later. Over the next 2 months, more than 4,000 people helped search for Polly. Jamie, we've covered so many cases where kidnappings occur, and the community outreach is pretty powerful. You see so many businesses giving like supplies to all the people searching, and then people come from all over the place to try to help for search. Pretty powerful moment.
It really can be. And you see it makes you feel a little bit better about life and have a little more faith in people when they do turn out like this. And you hope that there's a good outcome, but I have a feeling that's not where we're going.
The kidnapping really affected this quiet town, and the search got national attention with actress Winona Ryder got involved. Now, just days after Polly disappeared, Winona Ryder, who is from Petaluma, offered a $200,000 reward for any information in order to bring Polly home. She even dedicated her performance in the movie Little Women to Polly, since it was Polly's favorite book. She donated her profits from the movie to missing child charities and Polly's family.
On November 28th of 1993, nearly 2 months after she went missing, a woman in East Santa Rosa, which is about 20 miles north of Petaluma, was hiking through property near her home when she found children's clothing and a man's sweatshirt along with other items, including an unwrapped, unrolled condom. The clothes reminded her of things described in the kidnapping of Polly that she'd heard about on the news, so she called authorities. With one piece of clothing, children's red leggings, being matched to the other part of leggings authorities took as evidence, they knew they were on the right track to solve this kidnapping.
And then we have a pretty major plot twist. Turns out this same woman had called the police because of a disturbance the night of the kidnapping. So let's go back to that night. Within hours of the kidnapping, the Santa Rosa's woman's babysitter was on her way home and saw a suspicious man whose vehicle was stuck in a ditch in the woman's driveway. The woman called 911 and deputies were dispatched. The deputies that arrived were suspicious of this man, Richard Allen Davis, but the deputies didn't know about the kidnapping or the description of the suspect because they were tuned into the Sonoma Valley Channel 3, not Channel 1, so they basically missed the APB.
Which is really unfortunate to have essentially this really good suspect sitting right in front of you, but you don't have this essential piece of information. It was put out in an all points bulletin, not a some points bulletin. They really wanted the word out there, but they only put it on this one channel. So the deputies missed it when they found this guy who was on, essentially her driveway was like a private road. You really couldn't see the car from her house. It was quite a ways away. So it's not like she could see it from the window, but it was certainly suspect, and they had him right in their grasp.
Yeah, they would end up searching his car thoroughly, and they didn't find any evidence or anyone else in the car. They questioned Davis for 40 minutes. They called him a tow truck and told him to get out of the area as soon as his car was available. Before he left, the deputies told Davis to fill out a field interrogation card with his information on it. So when the Santa Rosa woman told the police about the suspicious man from that night, they were able to go back into the call records and found the field interrogation card for Richard Allen Davis.
So now they had a name. The only other piece of forensic evidence authorities had from the kidnapping is the partial palm print that they found on Polly's bunk bed. It matched prints on file for Davis, so he was brought in for interrogation. So you have a witness seeing him essentially being creepy and suspicious the night of the kidnapping. Around the area that he was seen were clothes that were matched to the kidnapping, and you have a handprint that matches him. It seems like it should be pretty open and shut at this point. And when we get back from our break, we'll talk about Davis's response to the interrogation and how they ultimately found the body of Polly Kloss.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
Streaming only on Peacock.
What do you know about Dr. Dunch?
He was charming, intelligent.
My patients mean everything to me.
Based on the unbelievable true story.
I can't make sense of it.
Dunch has 2 deaths that we know of. The state of Texas has executed people for less.
It's like he knew what he was supposed to do.
Then he did the exact opposite.
Dr. Death, starring Joshua Jackson with Christian Slater and Alec Baldwin.
I am going to fix you.
All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock. Streaming only on Peacock.
What do you know about Dr. Dunch?
He was charming, intelligent.
My patients mean everything to me.
Based on the unbelievable true story.
I can't make sense of it.
Dunch has 2 deaths that we know of. The state of Texas has executed people for less.
It's like he knew what he was supposed to do.
Then he did the exact opposite.
Dr. Death, starring Joshua Jackson with Christian Slater and Alec Baldwin.
I am going to fix you.
All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
Jamie here. John and I really want to tell you about our other podcast in case you haven't checked that one out yet.
Yeah, man, it's called Bless Their Hearts. You can find it wherever you find your favorite podcast. You can listen to us talk about anything from our favorite movies, desserts, or even aliens.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really a palate cleanser of sorts for us to get our minds away from the crime world, and we'll talk about what it means to be redneck to us. We'll call our family members occasionally and bring in as many guests as we can to have a good time.
You guys don't want to miss it. Again, it's found wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Check out Bless Their Hearts today. On the evening of December 4th, 1993, Robert Allen Davis confessed to kidnapping and murdering Polly Kloss. He then led investigators to her body. He had buried her in a shallow grave just off of Highway 101. While he admitted to the crimes, he refused to tell them the exact timeline of what happened on the night of the kidnapping. While it's believed that Polly was alive when the car went into the ditch in the driveway of the witness, there are 2 theories about what may have happened after that. One theory is that Davis killed Polly before the police showed up and hid her body in the woods. So this would be after he encountered the babysitter. He said something to her. She told him she was going to call police. So he had some time for her to drive off the property, find a payphone to call the house, and then the homeowner called police. So there was a significant amount of time there. Then, if this is the case, police escorted him off the property once his car was towed. So he waited some time and went back to get the body and then buried it in a place where a casual observer would find her, not relating it to his interactions that night. The other theory is that he tied up Polly and he hid her in the woods while he dealt with the police. And then once police had left the scene, he retrieved Polly and killed her where he buried her. This entire timeline of what happened between her kidnapping and her murder remains murky.
It does seem murky, and it seems like we have a general idea of him being in the area around the same time. He did confess, but that's kind of all we know. Well, actually, we know a little bit more. Here's what we do know. We know that Davis admitted to strangling Polly, and we know that Davis had a long rap sheet. By the time he kidnapped Polly, Davis had been in prison for both burglary and kidnapping. In 1976, he attempted to kidnap a woman by forcing her into his car. She broke free, and Davis was evaluated at a psychiatric clinic. Now, he escaped on December of 1976, broke into a couple's house, and tied them up. For that, he was sentenced to 6 years. Then, in 1984, he committed another kidnapping. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison, but got out in just 8 years. So, man, yeah, this is definitely where the 3-strike rule plays in, right? Like, this guy should not have been out of prison for doing all of these things, and then now this could have been completely avoided.
Yeah, and I mean, just look back at all this, and we encounter this a lot in the cases that we cover, right? People are given a little bit of a leash, probably more than they deserve, and I'm sure that happens a lot. I'm sure some judges will tend to give a lighter sentence to somebody that they may have a hunch might turn their life around, and maybe that works most of the time, but it doesn't work all the time, and that's how we end up in these situations. He had been arrested and in prison for kidnapping before, and then in 1976, he broke into a couple's home and tied them up, and then in 1984, he committed another kidnapping. That right there is 3 instances of kidnapping. So tell me why in 1993, when they called in and said, hey, we've got this guy on this road next to a house. He's not supposed to be here. He says he's lost. Does he have a record? Why was there no background check when they called in the suspicious guy in the driveway?
Yeah, I really don't have a great answer for you, but I do know that had they been able to go back and, hear that all points bulletin and know that, this guy has a long rap sheet, then it wouldn't be difficult to put 2 and 2 together. And then you could really start the investigation the night of, and, but the timeline's murky. She may have still been alive when they were talking to him. We don't know. And that's a sad point, but potentially, and I think it's a pretty slim percentage, you could have potentially saved Polly's life that night had you had all the information in your squad car that night. But I think that's probably a stretch.
I don't know. I think the chances are better than a little than you think. But regardless, it didn't happen. So we had the arrest. We get to trial. And this trial, John, was really graphic. In fact, the family had to leave the courtroom several times when they were talking to what happened to Polly's body. It was a long, difficult trial, but ultimately Davis was convicted on June 18th of 1996 of first-degree murder, robbery, burglary, kidnapping, and a lewd act on a child. The question of whether he molested Polly is still undetermined. It's part of that timeline of what did he do with her. They did test the unrolled condom that they found in the field that night. There was no DNA from anyone on it. There was no DNA evidence on her body to confirm that sexual assault occurred. The circumstantial evidence showed us that may have happened, and there may have even been enough to convict him, but that didn't take place. At his formal sentencing, Davis taunted the courtroom camera by standing up and putting both middle fingers up at it.
Yeah, so, we really have a guy here who's showing absolutely no remorse for the things he's done.
And he continued to try to set fires as he was going down. He would say that the last thing Polly said to him before she died was that he confided in her that her father had sexually assaulted her. There's no evidence of that, but this is just Davis continuing to hurt this family even after he's killed their daughter. Now, he was sentenced to death for this crime. And the judge during sentencing said, "It's easy for me to pronounce this sentence, given your revolting behavior in this courtroom." So it wasn't just the crimes he had committed to Polly. It wasn't his entire rap sheet. The judge was just so appalled by his demeanor and his attitude toward the victim's family that he was happy to hand down the harshest sentence possible.
Your attorneys would tell you just sit there, act remorseful, and maybe that will help you in the long run. But he wasn't doing anything to help himself at all.
At all.
Now, one thing we didn't learn from Davis was why. Why did this happen? Why did he pick Polly? Why was he the way that he was? And this whole thing, Jamie, was just seemingly random, which is the stuff of nightmares. Like, our kids are the same age as Polly when all this happened. Our kids at any given night could be found at each other's houses doing the same thing that Polly and her friends were doing, just hanging out, having a sleepover. And then this guy, Davis, who was homeless and just out of prison, knocks on the door, and that's when everything goes downhill. Now, he didn't know the Kloss family, and he supposedly had no plans to kidnap anyone. He just went to her house on a whim, and then this whole thing happened. That is absolutely terrifying that a person could be so evil to just knock on a random door and take the first thing that you see.
Yeah, and you wonder if that's the truth, right? Like, he has a criminal record. You would think that anybody looking to commit a robbery, which is what he says he's doing, is going to scout the place out. They're going to pick a home that looks vulnerable. They're going to pick a place that looks like they have valuables. To choose a place on a whim to rob usually happens, at least around here where we live, I think, when people are under the influence of drugs or alcohol, when they just kind of go out and really aren't thinking straight in a lot of ways.
Well, and most of those, like if robbery is the primary motive, then you do it in the middle of the night, or most likely in the middle of the day when nobody's home. It seems to me, and this is just my opinion, his motives were not robbery. I think he went in there with clear intentions to kidnap a girl and then to do some awful things to her.
Polly's friends would say that when he entered the bedroom, that he did ask them where the valuables were kept. And he told them that's why he was taking Polly with him and that he would return her safely. Now, obviously, that was just a ploy to get her away without the girls chasing or trying to attack him. And there is a theory that he maybe was there for a robbery and just heard the noise of girls having a sleepover in that bedroom, and that's why he entered that door instead of the mother's door or one of the other rooms in the house looking for valuables. But looking at the entire picture, it's just so hard to believe that all that would happen to Polly in a robbery gone wrong, at least in my opinion. Mark Kloss, who was Polly's father, had a really hard time with what happened to his daughter. He felt a sense of responsibility because he wasn't there that night. He and Polly's mom had separated and had been divorced. And after what happened to his daughter, Mark became a child advocate and founded the Kloss Kids Foundation, which helps parents whose children have also been kidnapped. Also angered by the fact that Davis had been in and out of jail, Kloss lobbied to bring about California's 3 strikes law, which we brought up earlier in the episode, which gives life sentences to criminals with 3 felony convictions. Now, unfortunately, the law was not drafted well because it mandated that even those convicted of non-violent felonies could be sent to prison for life. When Mark Kloss learned this, he started disassociating himself with the lobbying efforts, but the law ended up passing anyway. So he wants this law to be passed to protect people, particularly children or anybody that could be the victim of a violent crime. But lawmakers took this a step further to where non-violent crimes could be included, and Mark Kloss didn't want any part of that. In 1994 was the start of a strong trend of states passing similar laws to the 3 strikes law. You said that there were 28 states that are currently doing this, and this was really the start of that wave of laws passing. In many cases since this law passed, individuals charged with crimes like bigamy or even stealing a slice of pizza in certain circumstances could be deemed a felony and you could face life in prison. Members of the Kloss family have become outspoken advocates in favor of revising this law, but many lawmakers are afraid of looking soft on crime. In fact, during the trial, Davis's face and the image of him flipping off the camera became the focus of political advertisements for at least 3 Republican congressional candidates looking to show their opponents as soft on crime. They were saying, look, under the leadership we have, guys like this guy committed multiple crimes and stayed out on the streets, and I'm here to buckle down and put an end to this. And that's why the law was written the way it was, and that's why nobody wanted to revise it.
Today, Davis is on death row in San Quentin. Now, he has survived a drug overdose and attacks from several other prisoners. He is now in solitary confinement and continues to appeal his conviction. In 2009, the California Supreme Court denied his appeal and upheld the death sentence. He still has appeal options that have to be exhausted before he can be put to death. So that's kind of where he is now.
Yeah, in California, we're really not utilizing the death penalty right now anyway, thankfully. So I don't want to see anyone put to death. We've gone into that on previous episodes. I'm glad he's going to be behind bars forever. I hope that all of his appeal options run out really quickly. This guy does not need to be out on the street. And more importantly, he didn't need to be out on the street at the time that he killed Polly Klaas. He should have already been behind bars for a lot of years, if not a life sentence already.
You know, I'm glad that I'm not a judge who has to be the person making these sentences because, I don't know, I guess most people are decent human beings and they want to hope that people can, you know, be healed and whatever is causing them to do their awful crimes can go away with some treatment. But man, after so many of these things, you would hope that you could just, like he is now, just put him in jail and not have to worry about it happening to anybody else. So I don't know. We have a few more things to talk about, but then I'd like to really hear what you think about the 3 strikes law.
Yeah, just really quickly, on kind of a happier note, Polly's friends from the sleepover who did have to testify at trial, and at that age, that's just so traumatic. They seem to have grown up to have successful lives. Kate's a journalist and makes documentary films in the Bay Area. Jillian's a dual citizen working as an attorney and living in England. So kudos to both of them for growing up and making the most out of their lives and continuing to use their platforms to advocate.
Yeah, it's incredible. And like you said, it was something so traumatic. I can't imagine going through that as a kid. But yeah, like you said, kudos to these girls. All right, so that wraps up Polly's case, kind of. I do want to talk to you more about this 3 strikes law and just kind of see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I get the theory behind it, but I think there are a lot of things at work here. One, there's what's the purpose of our prison system? Is it a correctional facility? Is it restorative justice where we're trying to correct behaviors and issues that help people to become productive members of society? Or is it punishment where we throw somebody in a jail cell and hope they're miserable for the crimes they committed? I think at some point we're going to need to decide what we're doing with that for any of this other stuff to make sense. Because right now, people will talk all they can about rehabilitation and this person has changed so much since they've been in prison. But the cases that we cover, some people are just thrown away and never thought of again. They go through these appeals processes using all kinds of money to do so, government money, fundraised money, and that kind of thing. And honestly, some of them I feel like can't be restored. And I hate to say that, but there are some people that just are too far gone, whether that's for mental health issues or really just sociopaths that can't get it together. So I do think there's a place where we have to, for lack of a better term, throw people away and lock up the key. But I think there's this whole other group of people that we can rehabilitate that we're not focusing on. So if we can figure out where to put that energy, that's a start. Now, none of that has to do with the 3 strikes law, except that I think it does. I think that helps us to determine whether people are capable of being restored or rebuilt or contributing to society, to where if you're continually violent over and over, yeah, we're done with you. We tried, but we have to try sometime in the middle. We have to be working with people to rehabilitate them. And then if it's not working, there has to be a limit. And I think that's what this law is about. Philosophically, I agree, but in practice, I don't think it's working.
So Kentucky does not have the 3 strike law, to the best of my knowledge. At least I haven't been able to find that we have it, and I'm certain we don't. Tennessee does. Tennessee has the 3 strike law, and Tennessee actually took it a step further. Did you know this?
No.
They have the 2 strike law, which doesn't make any sense in sports, but it makes perfect sense in Tennessee law. So basically, the most serious, like violent crimes, like rape, murder, and some serious cases of sodomy, etc. Like some of those do count towards the 2 strike law, and 2 strikes against you for the breaking those laws will equal a mandate of a life sentence in prison. So Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, some of those states stepped up and did the 2 strike law.
I I don't want to make light of this, but messing up the sports analogy and writing legal legislation I find that humorous, but not surprised to hear that list of states. And I feel like that sets a lot of people up for failure. If, again, what are we doing when we put those people in prison the first time? Or were they just sitting in there and then we let them out? Of course, they're going to go back to what they were doing. Or are we working to rehabilitate these people? If we are working to do that, then I support a 3 strikes policy in some form as it pertains to violent crimes. Of course, not across the board. It's not universal. But if we're not trying to help people, I don't care how many times you throw them in prison. If you don't help them, they're going to be the same person when they get out most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And sadly, I think a lot of people go into prison and come out worse than they were before because you're in a pool with other prisoners who have done awful things to get in there. So maybe you kind of go in there and you hone your skills a little bit and come out worse than you were before you went in the first time. So I don't know, man. These are problems that are real and they need to get tackled. I don't think that I'm the person who needs to be tackling them.
It's interesting you mentioned that because we cover a lot of cases where people do go to prison and then they learn, A, how to get away with things more, B, different ways to hurt people. After we had the episode of Talk is Jericho last week, we received some messages from some forensic specialists talking about how behind bars, Nathaniel Barjona talked to other pedophiles and they ended up moving to that area of Montana together and sharing tricks of the trade on how to molest children. So you're right. If we're putting them in prison with other evildoers to share recipes, for lack of a better phrase, with Nathaniel Barjona, then we're not helping anybody. We're making our society a much worse place when these people get out.
Yeah. And I see it all the time. So again, these are serious problems that need to be looked at. And I know some people are looking into them and I think reform is on the way, but it is definitely above my pay grade.
It is. And I worry it's one of those things in my mind that, I don't know, you think you establish some goals and you're like, yeah, that's achievable. I can write down these objectives that are going to help me reach this goal. But when I think about something like prison reform, I feel like we are doing it so wrong everywhere in our country, most of the places in the world, that tackling that and getting some kind of real change is almost impossible. Now, maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but I don't feel great about that happening in our lifetimes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic and say that it's possible, but I think anything with the government and bureaucracy is pretty slow. So you could be right.
We're interested to hear your opinion of the 3 strikes laws. Of course, we added 15 caveats to our opinions as we gave them because everything's not strictly black and white, but we're eager to hear what you guys think. So please comment on our social media posts about this episode, what you think about those laws, or if you've had any different experiences with them, or send us an email or a message. We would love to engage and continue this conversation.
Yeah, guys, we appreciate everything that you do to support the show. Like we said, go check out that Talk is Jericho episode where we joined Chris Jericho in talking about Nathaniel Barjona. What else can they do to support the show there, Jamie?
Yeah, the best thing you can do, and we've had several lately, is ratings and reviews. The more ratings and reviews we get, the more people see our show, the more people hear our show, the more people review our show, the more people that hear our show. It's a cycle that we love and cherish. And if you want to join in, we really appreciate that.
Yep. Also, go check out Patreon. We had a huge list of people that joined us over the last few weeks at the beginning of the show. And listen, at the end of this week, actually on Sunday morning, you're going to have a brand new Patreon episode for you to download. You're only going to get that if you join Patreon. So go to patreon.com and search for True Crime Cast. You'll see us.
Guys, we appreciate you listening in and we appreciate all your support. We'll be back on Friday with another True Crime to go.
Until next crime, this has been True Crime Cast.
You've listened to True Crime Cast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock. Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.